Hi, everybody. We are here with three members of IQC, and it is a very special event because we will be talking about our weekly reviews, which we have been doing it for almost a year. It started a long time back in December 2023, and now it's December that when we are recording this, and it's a year, and it's a good time to celebrate all the things that we have done so far. And I have with me three special members, Taru, who was our first author who was reviewed in this weekly review. At that time, IQC was known under a different name called the Sprint at 10:30 a.m. And after the whole, IQC took its name, we had several other members. And as per that chronology, Vibha was the first one, and followed by Nupur and Chitra. So we have Chitra and Nupur as well in the call. So let's begin this interview, and I hope you all are excited. So first question is, I want you all to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi everyone. I'm Chitra Iyer, and I am one of the early members of the Ink and Quill collection. Before, I think it was called Ink and Quill collection. I am a professional writer, but I write B2B content, write for businesses and digital publications in the realm of marketing and technology. However, I am also an aspiring creative fiction writer, and that's what I'm doing on the Ink and Quill collective. So, I think it's been the backbone of my writing journey ever since I started seriously trying to pursue creative fiction. I'm glad to be a part of this group.
So I have been one of the early members of the Ink and Quill Collective as well. And this was when it was called the 10:30 a.m. sprint, and I used to regularly attend that session. Then lots of things started happening in the Ink and Quill Collective along with my life. So one of the things that I do is I dabble in speculative fiction, and I've been dabbling in it since the past 2 years. I'm also trying to give it a base ground. So I'm trying to do a bit of future studies and future research so that I can give it a semi-academic and an academic background, what I do. So my writing now consists of mostly research-based fiction, and the research is out of my writing, my own writing, as well as it is out of purely using the imagination for doing speculative fiction. So, yeah, that's what I do.
I joined the group when it was still called the morning 10:30 sprint. So my journey started with IQC from there. And so I am also an aspiring writer, right? I write in Hindi and English, and I do both poetry and prose. I did publish two books, one a book of poetry and one a book of short stories. I'm now doing a bigger project, which is a long form novel. The biggest thing which has happened with is that the support of the IQC members has helped me, overcome a lot of problems as a writer. A lot of things that stopped me from that helped me continue writing. By profession, I've been an executive coach, and I have been a technology journalist, and now I'm a digital marketer also. So Friday Feedback is a peer review program, right? Basically, anybody who's written something, whether you're published, unpublished, or a newbie, right? Whether you've written a short fiction, short story, flash fiction, or just anything, you're working on a new project and you've even done 10 pages and you want to get it reviewed by people who are writers like you. So that's where the Friday Feedback program comes in. So members from the group, the writing is shared among them only to the people who opt for it, and people share their feedback as readers. It's more like readers. So that's how it goes basically. That what I've seen is that over a period of time that reviews are serious about sharing their review, and people who read a certain genre or understand a certain genre, they opt to give a review in that genre preferably. So what the reviews we get from the readers makes sense. You know, they have it's a genuine feedback coming from readers who read that kind of work. So that's how I see the Friday feedback review sessions.
All right, Chitra, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Taru. I wanted to add that it's so difficult as a writer to get access to people who are not just readers but also writers. So, to get both those perspectives in the feedback is like really worth a lot. Usually, as we find friends and family for reading, and they are either not readers or not writers, and it's always biased. So, they don't want to hurt your feelings and stuff. So, I found initially, because my reviews were done quite early when we began. I think the first one I may have even just submitted because we were trying to encourage more people to submit. And but once I actually went through the process of being reviewed, I realized, wow, it's really very valuable in terms of the so many different perspectives that you get for a character, for a plot, for the ending, for the beginning, for the use of colloquialisms and many technical things as well, which you just missed. It's just irreplaceable.
So the Friday review is actually the weekend dhamaka for me, and that is how it used to be where it was still called the 10:30 a.m. sprint. So you sprint the entire week, and you have something at the end to show. And what better place than the Friday peer review? Because here are a group of writers, as Chitra and Taru said, who are willing to read your work. And where on earth would you find people actually giving their time to review your work, assess your work, and then give you feedback, tell you what exactly is going right and going wrong with this, whatever that you're writing. So I think the Friday review makes an excellent ending to that sprint week, which has gone heavy on you and have just been blasting your fingers at the keyboard and saying, yep, this is what I wanted to write. And now I headed straight to a group of people who are going to tell me what to do. Sounds perfect. And it actually did quite work very well for me as well.
Awesome. But one curious thing that I have in mind is that did any of you have the experience of getting your work beta read or peer reviewed before what we did in IQC?
So
Friends and family.
Friends and
Sorry.
family? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. Chitra has friends
friends
and
and
family.
family.
Anybody else like Taru?
Me too, friends and family. I've never had a peer review done before. I had experts read some work and given their feedback, but never peer review.
And what about Nupur? You?
Same here. I mean, except for participating in panel discussions, things were never so smooth before the Friday peer review. So you deliberately took your work out and participated in other formats so that you could get your work reviewed and assessed by certain people. And here was one thing that was dedicated to doing just that. So never before, really.
Yeah. So that is this interesting thing, right? Because family review can be more candid, and they would want to please you all the time. So, it makes a whole lot of difference when you get it reviewed by this whole bunch of new people, and that too they are like peer writers, right? So, was the experience different?
Definitely, because the family tends to go wow as soon as you put something on on their WhatsApp group and say, "Oh, you've written something. Oh, this is absolutely wonderful." And then you're saying, "Yeah, but please, can you tell me what went wrong with it so that I can submit it? Do you have any criticism?" And more than half of them and ah through it and say, "Well, maybe this way, but you're the writer in the family. You would know better." Right? So very different from a professional formal setting in which you have a mixed bag of criticism.
To add to that, I think there's a element of time as well. When you send it out to friends, even when you send it out to peers, you have to follow up. 10 things are going to come in their way as well, and you have to remind them, and then you feel pretty sheepish. What you do when you bring everyone together on a Friday review at 10 a.m. is you're putting a time constraint to it, and so it saves the author from the trouble of having to chase people and beg them to read it or make time in their week, or reminders, which can become awkward. So that is also another benefit. Everybody's time bound, not just the author to submit, but the reviewers to submit their reviews.
Yeah, plus what I've seen is that the family and friends can't give you any technical review, you know. One, they of course give a review to please you. They don't give a review. It's like just a few exclamatory words, which the nice words, right?
So now we'll go to the questions regarding your own personal journey with the Friday reviews. And I'd like to ask each and every one of you about the piece that you submitted for the review.
So I did two peer reviews. Like the first one was mine in the group. So the first review I did was it was a short story. Both the reviews were on short stories. The first was a drama story. Um, the it was quite overwhelming or an humbling experience and a learning experience, I'll say. It was nice to hear what was the experience. I mean, how different people see the same piece of writing, right? You know, so how they saw it and what their feedback was. So, uh, and people came prepared. The reviewers came prepared with their reviews, and some people didn't like certain words. Like in the first story, it was a story uh, it was a basically a sarcasm on the patriarchal system of India, where men are served food before women, or women eat much later, and men do that, right? So there was a short story on that. That when the woman of the house falls ill, how children deal with that situation, and how to their surprise, how the father reacts to it, you know, which comes as a surprise to them. So I saw that certain people, as certain reviewers, didn't like the word patriarchy. They didn't like seeing men in the negative light. It was quite prominent, you know, that came out. Yes. Then there were feedback on do more show than tell, you know, stuff like that, and a lot of other things. My second review was again a short story, which was humor. I was a little confused about the genre because I had written as dark fantasy, but it was a mix of dark fantasy, dark or humor, right? And it was very interesting to see. Again, people said that because this story was a mix of a monologue and a first person in the dialogues. So how, okay, as a writer, I didn't see things in there that there could be a mix up in the three styles, right? But a reader who read it for the first time could see it. So they came up, they suggested, okay, make these changes here and there, right? Work more on a certain character or on a certain situation which you have presented there. So these were very specific feedback or a certain style of writing in which I even connected with one of the reviewers later because he talked about a certain style of writing which was old versus new. So I connected with him later one on one, and he basically gave me a very good idea of what he was talking about and directed me to more readings on that stuff, on that topic. You know, this is extremely constructive, and the what I've seen is that the in both the stories, the reviewers could be blunt. They were all polite but blunt, and they said what needed to be said. You know, because they took their job seriously. They said, if I'm a reviewer, I'm supposed to tell you what's right and what's wrong, right? So I'll not mince my words. But at the same time, they were polite enough to understand that we are all writers in making. We are not professional writers. Or these are edited pieces by us. These are not professionally edited pieces. So it was a good learning experience. It gave me the confidence that yes, I could make the story better and I can share it with certain publications. So that was my experience of both the reviews. So
All
first
right.
review happened last December, and the last review, which I did 2 weeks ago, again happened in this December, which is a year apart.
So it's like December has been a great review month for you.
Yes, yes. And
Nice.
I hope to do more in the next
Let's
December.
not wait till next December. Do send us as early as possible. All
I
right.
will.
I distinctly remember submitting a piece of work that was close to my heart. It was called Earworms in Space. And it was, yeah, Chitra's nodding her head because Chitra was one of the first reviewers that went ahead in the panel of people who were present there to review my work. And Earworms in Space was something that was close to my heart because it was typically the way I write. I write what people say is a dreamy, abstract way of writing. So there is like a smattering of plot, there is mythology, there is science fiction, everything is speculated upon, and there is a touch of reality in the piece, in which I play on real stories to get to the point that I'm trying to make. So this particular piece was basically my journey from Jaipur to Bangalore, but in this a really abstract way where I introduced a lot of the dreams to a cult that existed in Bangalore, out of nowhere, of course. But I had heard about cults in Bangalore, especially the Illuminati, or there were these other cults which were not religious but spiritual in kind, and which had a deep impact on me while I was still in Bangalore. So I wrote this piece, and I wrote it for the Commonwealth Prize. And when I first brought it to the review, mm, I I had like a brilliant host of people telling me it's all there, your material's all there. All you need to get to is a narrative and a plot and try and explain what genre you're talking about. But the pulp and the meat is all there. And this was the first time that I heard something about this writing of mine, because it was a short story, but the short story could be turned into a novella. There were people who were giving me ideas like that, and I didn't even think about that. So various kinds of readers, various kinds of writers commented on the piece, and each had a different perspective to share, and each had something to say. And I took back so many comments, and I did so many reviews, and such positive feedback. The vibe was excellent. So I decided to attend two more reviews after that in quick succession. And I'm very happy to tell you that my second review was a review of two poems that I had written, and both of them got published within 3 months of me
Wow,
attending the Friday review. Yeah.
that's
So,
awesome. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes. So, and this was without any editing after the Friday review. And what people had told me about the poems was bang on. So I just submitted them, and I got acceptance in an international journal as well as an Indian journal. So in March, I was happy. December, I had submitted Earworms of Space. By March, I had got my poems published. I was like, I'm arriving. Till one day, Earworms in Space popped up again, and I was like, oh, I haven't gone over the comments, and I haven't really made this piece the way that it should have been according to the review. This is how seriously I took the review. And I made a third attempt then at getting one of my other slightly controversial kind of writing reviewed. And lo and behold, there was yes-sayers and no-sayers, and it was alive and kicking, that entire review. And I got more ideas from there. So all three reviews of mine were in quick succession, and I benefited immensely from giving all my work out to this review.
Yeah, I've submitted two stories to the Friday review so far. Both were short stories. The first one was I had sort of constrained myself to write a story in 1,500 words, and I had a certain plot that I wanted to convey in a very, very short story. And when I submitted that, I got immensely valuable feedback. Okay, but mostly more than the craft, I think it was perspectives. So the way of looking at the character, the dynamics of the different characters. I had focused on two characters, and people suggested focusing on another different character, and so it just enriched the possibilities of the story immensely. However, since I had that word constraint, I actually did not make too many of changes in that version. I sent it out with a few tweaks, which definitely came from the review. Okay, a few sentence tweaks which just made the sentences tighter, made the meaning pop a little more. That story got accepted. It was one of the winners in the Penfluenza anthology, which got published. So that was great, that story. The other story that I had shared again, I got some excellent feedback on that, and I did submit it a couple of places, but that hasn't found a home yet. So I must, I think, continue sharing that story here and there. I think what I would really like to share is that I learned a lot, not just giving other people feedback, but also getting feedback. And I think when when so many diverse opinions come your way, you also learn a little bit about what to take and what to leave, which is also the art of taking feedback in a way. You have to um, find your own balance between what's useful for you and not take it personally. Uh, and it can be really hard, and it was hard for me initially, but I have realized that having attended so many Friday reviews now, I've realized it's nothing personal. It's only to help you improve your craft, and you can't well, as a writer, you can't be narrow minded. You just have to have a really broad mind and be open to every possibility. And so the Friday reviews force you is one way to force yourself to be open to a whole range of possibilities. Because if you spent like 3 months working on a short story and suddenly you get perspectives that you hadn't even thought of, first of all, it's makes you very angry and upset that you hadn't thought of those perspectives at all. You'd completely miss those realms of possibilities. But also too, somewhere it's even more annoying when you know that, yeah, if I take that feedback and work on it, it's going to improve my story, but it's going to need a lot of work again. Okay, so you have to make your peace with that, and knowing that in the end your story will be the better for it. So in my case, out of two, I've had a 50% strike rate with publishing.
That's awesome. I mean, like, good luck for the next one. I'm pretty sure it'll find a good home, because there is always a home for all the work that we do. That is something that I believe. All it needs is like the right polishing and the right amount of effort after the reviews and everything. So, coming to this point of your own stories, right? One important question that many people ask is, how secure do you feel sharing your work to, like, a vast group like IQC?
Yes, so there are many reasons I would say that I'm secure and comfortable sharing my work in the IQC group, because one, it is moderated, right? So when you have a moderated group, it makes a lot of difference. Then people cannot talk total nonsense, right? People speak for a defined for a defined period of time, right? And yeah, so that's one thing I would say. Then there's an accountability. There's an accountability which is there in the group of reviewers, because it is moderated. And also, the story that you submit for the review is not shared with everyone. It's only the members who opt to be reviewers. The story is only shared with them. So that means your story is not going all out to everyone unless you choose to do that. You have that option also. You want just anybody to be able to access your story. And then, like I had mentioned this before, also the IQC reviewers take their job seriously. They come prepared. They share your feedback. If they can't share it, then I mean, because they have a flexibility to either share the feedback live in the review session, or they can DM it later also to the author. So I have received DM feedbacks also, and they're also equally good. People send their audio feedback, people give their written feedback. So it is, what I have seen is that it is this review, the peer review or the security comes from knowing that your work is not being taken lightly, that there is accountability in the group, it is moderated, your work doesn't go out to just about anyone. So I think all these, these are most of the big factors that make me comfortable sharing my work with the IQC reviewers.
I think for me, it's also the same, Arijit. It is about, having a safe space, which is moderated, which makes the IQC review space a very friendly and useful space. And the feedback is always constructive. The moderators, of which I have also moderated quite a few sessions, are always alert to, make sure that whatever is coming is constructive and productive, and it's taking the conversation forward versus simply being judgmental or personal opinion without any facts. So I think we do appreciate the fact that the authors and the reviewers who show up there are also very usually, like Taru mentioned, quite well prepared. Of late, we have been also requesting reviewers to show up on time and also offer. I think some of our learnings along the way were where. Many people would show up, but not everyone would review or offer any sort of feedback or anything. So I think now, as part of the process, that everyone who shows up for the review must have read the piece and should offer up some sort of feedback or opinion or thoughts or ideas from the piece based on the piece, whether in writing later on or during the call itself, all of which I think makes the whole session pretty high quality.
Many people have this question that if you submit your work, their idea might get stolen. Like I come across this question quite often. Like, what is your perspective on that?
Oh, well, I was totally secure. That right from the word go, I said, I'll give it open access. If people want to edit my stuff and read it and give it back to me, I'm open to that as well. And I think the reason for this security came from the fact that here were a bunch of writers and here were a bunch of readers willing to review your writing, and they themselves were in the same boat. So it actually formed this wonderful civil society for me, in which even if ideas are shared, the expression is not borrowed or plagiarized or copied. An idea leads to another idea, leads to another idea, and there we go. You have a range of creative expression that you can see following up on IQC from the Friday review. So, very secure lot. Yeah, I would say.
All right. That'll be a very comforting watch for many viewers who are intending to submit in the later stage because everybody is very protective about their work, but it's good to hear. The next thing that I would like to talk
If
about
nothing
is,
else, Harit,
yeah.
at least we have 10 to 15 witnesses that the idea was.
Of course, of course. And we do have our sessions recorded, as in when we progress with the Friday reviews, we have a session recorded for the author to go back to the video and refer to them for future edits. But now tell me about your experiences as reviewers. You have all participated as reviewers as well in subsequent sessions. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
I mean, I think that, like I've already said, I think it's equally enriching to review and be reviewed. You learn so much in each and every session. You're doing your own preparation in terms of offering feedback, as well as listening to the other reviewers in the session and, how they have perceived the same thing. So we've had some contentious sessions where, everybody has we've had some very opposing ideas about how a particular story is ending or how a particular character is being portrayed, or feminism aspects of it, or exploitation aspects of a story. These have all come up time and again, and it's and another contentious one is how vernacular languages or regional languages are used in an English story. This also comes up again and again. So we get a lot of different perspectives, and each time there's something new that comes up, some new facet of it. So it just goes into our toolbox to use as and when we are writing our own stuff. Of course, when you're a reviewer, you have to take your job very seriously. So you're reading the story twice, thrice, four times, and from different perspectives. You're trying to look at the characters, you're trying to look at the craft of it, you're trying to look at the plot itself and find plot holes, all of which has to somewhere go towards making your faculty sharper as a writer as well. So I think for me, it's one of the most valuable exercises. Yeah, very enriching.
I totally agree with what Chitra said, that reviewing others' work, basically other writers' works, makes you a better writer. It sharpens your faculty. The thing is, when you are reviewing somebody else's work, you also have to prepare. So, which means it's not just the story you're reading. At times, you have to read from other things also and see that, okay, why is this thing given like this? How can it be different? Or you want to read up on or check some other works which may belong to the same genre, the same style of writing. So in whole, what is happening is that your own writing becomes sharper, your own style, you improve as a writer. Plus, what I have come across in these Friday reviews is that there are some aspects which a majority of the reviewers will point out to you, which means that there are certain things which probably the writer got it wrong because did not get it to the extent make it easy for the reader, because say 90% of the people pointed that thing out, which also makes you stronger in your conviction that okay, you are able to understand or read write I mean creative writing. You are able to understand the finer nuances of creative writing and give your feedback as a reviewer. And in the next, as a next reviewer, you are better prepared then.
As a reviewer, though, you are far more confident. You're part of that group, motley group, who is going to review the author. But there is a caveat to that. And that caveat is that you have to be well prepared. And you have to be well prepared to give the author the best of what you can, so that the author can improve upon his or her writing or take suggestions and make something into that writing. So I have a very give and take attitude myself, which is I beta read constantly so that I know what my peers are writing, and so that I can sharpen my review skills and apply them for my own sake as well in my writing. So I like to review stuff, I like to beta read stuff, and here is my own writing which is being reviewed as well. So I think as a model, the Friday peer review works great for me because that's what I believe.
Chitra, I'll come to you about something that you mentioned before, is that you have been a moderator alongside being a reviewer as well as an author who submitted your work. So how has that experience been?
So again, moderation is quite a responsibility. You have to, Arijit, as the leader of Ink and Quill, is very strict in terms of making sure we have our poll up on time to get the RSVPs and we have the document in place. So we have to be on the ball. Getting the author, like I would say 99% of the time it's been really easy and the authors have been cooperative. In one or two cases, we have had authors who have not submitted their story till the very last minute, and that has basically affected everybody, not just the author in terms of getting quality feedback, because obviously reviewers don't have enough time to really look at it and think through what they want to share in terms of feedback, but also the overall schedule, because we do have quite a waiting list of authors who want to get their feedback reviewed. So once you block the slot, if you end up not optimizing what you get from it, it's also affecting everyone else who could have got more out of that time. Plus it's we're getting so many people together, 1 hour of their time on a Friday, which is a working day. I think it's a lot to ask for. So as a moderator, the pressure is on you to make it as valuable a session for everyone as possible, keeping people I think the biggest challenge, I'm sure Arijit you'll agree, is getting reviewers to stick to a 3-minute time limit in terms of offering their feedback, because people, once they get into the flow of giving their feedback, can quite easily go to 5, 7 and 8 minutes. The other and then we came up with this crying face emoji, which is the warning sign if someone's past their time, but found in many cases that because the reviewer is so into the review, they also don't even notice those cry face emojis going on the side. They're so busy. So that is one. The other thing I think which is very interesting about our reviews is that we do not allow rebuttals to happen in the middle of the reviews. Okay, so when somebody is speaking, nobody interrupts, especially the author themselves, to defend their work, nor does anybody else interrupt to counter a particular point made. Everybody gets a empty 3 to 5 minutes of their own to say what they have to say without any fear of interruption, which I think is one of the most valuable aspects of the session. And as the sessions have progressed and we have become more mature with this, we don't see so many people trying to interrupt or counter argue or debate the points. The last thing that I really enjoy about the session moderating is asking or the author to offer their own thoughts at the end of the session. The author takes 2 or 3 minutes to reflect on it, and by and large it's always fulfilling to see that they have found it very useful. They have found so many rich inputs which have come in during the session. So yeah, these are some of the aspects of moderating that I really enjoy. and I do hope to continue doing more sessions.
So the next thing, and that this would be the final concluding question or a request from all of you is, how would you inspire other members or any other writer, whether part of IQC or not part of IQC? How would you ask them to join us in the Friday review sessions or the weekly review sessions, like we call it now?
See, I'll tell them, see, I did 2 reviews. I'm still surviving, standing on my feet, smiling, and still writing, Writing is a better writer. So just give it a go. I mean, you will come out learning something from it.
I would say go for it. I'll catch hold of a writer and say, you've written? Okay, now submit to Friday review. Of course, you'll have to wait for your slot because that goes away in seconds as soon as it is opened every month. But do not underestimate the power of a Friday review, is what I would tell people.
Yeah, likewise for me, I think, the first thing, a lot of people say they want to write. So the first thing is, okay, write then. If you want to write, then actually write and stop saying you will write or thinking about writing or planning to write or whatever, just write. And secondly, if you've written and you're serious about writing, then you have to be open to being read. Right? So the first step of that is to be read by our Friday reviewers, to get constructive feedback from people who are equally writers and readers. I think you would be crazy to miss the chance to get this kind of feedback for free from a bunch of experienced writers and readers.
See,
Go
one
for
thing I like to add here is that, which I haven't mentioned before, is that when I got a review, the feedback on one of my short stories, right, the last one, it actually helped me see the gaps in my bigger project, which did not come up for review, but it made me see, because as a writer, I have a certain style of writing and I tend to make the same mistakes or tend to write this in a similar style in the other things also. So that was something which I had not expected or I was not prepared, but that one review of a short story helped me see the gaps in my bigger project. So I would say that that was a huge advantage.
One of you mentioned about getting the Friday review slot is really difficult because it gets over even faster than Tatkal tickets. That's what we call it. And for that we do have certain special segments whenever the time is ripe. Like September Madness, we had much more advanced form. We had each author given three reviewers per person, and that was a different sort of game altogether. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, and it's good that we are having this interview, because the very next Friday review that's happening is going to be our 50th review, and it's going to be lovely. And I hope that you all can be around and join us in this process. We'll be setting up the meeting links and RSVP today. And thank you so much for your time. And looking ahead to more works from all of you so that we can review them next year. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.